The tent was cut open from the inside, not unzipped, not torn by wind, sliced open with a blade from the inside by people who were already inside and warm, and chose, in the middle of a freezing night, to cut their way out into a blizzard rather than open the door. 9 people then walked out into -30-degree cold. Several of them were barefoot. One was wearing a single sock. They walked away from their only shelter, their only warmth, their only chance of survival, and they did not stop. Within hours, all 9 were dead. My name is the voice behind Creepy Chronicles, and this is the Dyatlov Pass incident, 66 years old, partially explained by new 2025 science, and still, in key places, completely unresolved. Every fact in this investigation comes from the original 1959 case files, declassified by the late 1980s, and the most recent peer-reviewed research published in 2025. Where the science disagrees with itself, I will tell you exactly where, and let you decide. In January 1959, 10 students and graduates from the Ural Polytechnical Institute set out on a skiing expedition through the northern Ural Mountains. Their leader was 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov. One member turned back early due to illness, leaving 9. They were experienced. This was not their first serious expedition. They were heading toward a peak called a Tauten, which, in the language of the local Mansi people, translates to roughly, "Don't go there." On the 1st or 2nd of February, the group made an unusual decision. Instead of descending into the tree line to camp, where they would have had natural shelter from wind, they pitched their tent directly on the open slope of a mountain known as Kholat Syakhl, Dead Mountain. When the group failed to check in, a search was launched. On the 26th of February, searchers found the tent. It was half collapsed, partially covered in snow, and cut open from the inside. Footprints led away from the tent. Some belonged to bare feet. They led downhill, toward a tree line more than a kilometer away. Beneath a large cedar tree at the edge of the forest, searchers found the first 2 bodies. They were not wearing shoes. They were not wearing enough clothing for the conditions. There were burn marks on the cedar's branches, as though someone had tried desperately to climb it to see something or escape something. 3 more bodies were found between the cedar tree and the tent, in positions that suggested they had been trying to crawl back. All 5 of these first bodies were determined to have died primarily of hypothermia. The remaining 4 hikers were not found until May, when the snow finally melted enough to reveal a ravine. They were buried under 4 meters of snow, and what investigators found on their bodies changed the entire nature of this case. One victim had fatal chest fractures consistent with the force of a car crash. Another had a crushed skull. None of them had any external wounds, no cuts, no bruises matching the internal damage, as though the force had come from inside their bodies, with no mark left on the skin. One of the women, Lyudmila Dubinina, was missing her tongue, her eyes, part of her lips and facial tissue. Soviet pathologists attributed it controversially to natural decomposition in running water. Many researchers have never accepted that explanation. Tests later found radioactive contamination on some of the hikers' clothing, at levels official investigators described as elevated but inconclusive. And 50 kilometers away, on the same night, a separate group of hikers reported strange orange spheres of light moving across the sky. In 2025, Swiss researchers Alexander Puzrin and Johann Gaume returned to Dyatlov Pass and filmed direct video evidence of small slab avalanches occurring on slopes above the campsite. The same kind of slope failure event their theory had proposed years earlier. Their model suggests that a delayed slab avalanche, not the dramatic debris-strewn kind most people picture, could explain the chest and skull injuries and could explain why the hikers fled without their boots. But in 2025, a separate forensic analysis pushed back hard. Using the original autopsy reports and sworn testimony from the lead forensic examiner, researchers argued that the survival windows and physical capabilities described in the avalanche theory do not match what the bodies actually showed. They also pointed to something stranger. The hikers' knives, essential survival tools every experienced hiker carries, were missing from the scene entirely, despite appearing in photographs taken earlier on the trip. Either the knives were lost in the chaos, or someone else was there. In 1990, the original lead investigator, Lev Ivanov, broke his decades of official silence. He admitted he had been ordered to close the case and classify the findings. He said, personally, He believed the orange spheres seen that night had something to do with what happened to the group. Creepy Chronicles investigates the cases where official science and lived evidence still don't fully agree. Every Thursday and every Sunday, real, documented, told without apology. The avalanche theory may explain most of what happened on that mountain in 1959. It has not yet explained all of it, and the tent is still cut open from the inside.